Hello everyone and welcome to our panel. We are Cactus Jam Games and we are here to present to you our panel, our first ever panel actually, Every Hue of Development, which is a nice play on words of our game title, Every Hue of You.
Yes, very nice.
Yeah, thanks Nula. Moving on, I am Julia, our team's producer and art director as well as lead illustrator.
And I'm Nadula, the creative director and producer.
We also have two other members that couldn't make it today. We have Audrey, who is our programmer and technical director, as well as Brianna, who is our concept artist and social media manager. So just to give you a quick summary of what our panel is going to be about, it's just going to be a nice casual chat about the creation process of this game from the very beginnings till now. So to give you a quick introduction of our game, the title is Every Hue of You, as you've heard previously, and it follows Twyla's experience struggling to take over her mother's jewellery store when she suddenly discovers she's a conduit, giving her the power to imbue the jewellery she creates with the emotions of her customers.
Yeah, so Every Hue of You at its core is about personal exploration. So it explores the perspectives and lives of characters from all walks of life and reflects on the emotions that are key in their struggles and their triumphs. So we do this through exploring the different characters that come through the store in the form of the customers.
Mm.
And this personal exploration, we contextualize it through this whole process of enchanting jewelry, which leads us to the core fantasy concept of the game, which is payoss, this emotional energy. Um, this is the way that the fantasy concept around which we've built this world and this game. And this is what Twyla uses to enchant her jewelry with the emotions of her customers.
Yeah, but enough about the game. Let's talk a little bit about how
How
we
we got
formed.
there.
Yeah, how we got there, how we formed. You know, you can't skimp out on university. That's a pretty core factor of our development process, which was the fact that during our final year of uni, we all happened to come together for our capstone project. The name of that project was Dreamleaf, which is also available to play on itch.io if you are interested. Um, so, to our surprise, a lot of people during uni, and I'm sure everyone's had an experience where they've just been in a group project and it's you know the group's not doing too hot, right? But
Yep,
thankfully,
hasn't really worked out.
but thankfully, for our final project, we landed on this group, and this group did really well. I'm very happy that we found each other, and it was actually really cool because we all came together because of a Google sheet that asked like what your interests were and all that jazz, and we all happened to like narrative games, and we originally actually wanted to like create a full version of Dreamleaf after we graduated, but we decided to scope down for our first ship title just because you know this game was a multiplayer online local board game concept Mario Party esque, and I think we would have been working on this for a couple years had we followed through with polishing it.
Yeah, yeah. For some comparison, Every Hue of You, we're looking at around 10 to 15 characters and trying to explore them very thoroughly and um, yeah, get to know them really well. And then in Dreamleaf, we had like 50 to 100 characters because it was a board game and you want to keep
Yeah.
seeing new things and you want to be able to replay that board game as well.
Yeah, you can see that on the right. That's just like a small handful of characters that we had available, and we wanted to like at least quadruple that if we
Yeah,
finalized it. So yeah, no way
yeah,
in hell we're gonna touch that. But This
So
was
yeah,
like
we kept it small for now.
exactly. I think we're being smart, and personally, I do not want to work on our first game for a million years. Um, so pats to us on the back. Basically, talking about like characters as well, like because we wanted that character focus, and I feel like because we one want character focus, but two want to kind of explore them more deeply in a way. Like having 100 characters is insane, but having a smaller scope and a smaller batch means that it's so much easier to kind of make it cohesive and like, but still different, just like our world. What happened to the other slide about the
Oh, you wanted
jewelry
the other
store?
slide?
Did you get rid of that slide? Oh no, there, it's there. I see. Ah, okay, go back.
You're not gonna talk about our design goals?
Okay, I'll talk about our design goals. So basically, um, we graduated university and then we decided to make a new game. And we were like, all right, I know what we learned from university. We start from figuring out what our core concepts and themes were. So we started making this document of design goals with this kind of narrative focus game because that's all we all loved, you know,
Yeah.
and we still love. So we definitely wanted something narrative, something that had a range of personal stories, and also something that had an amount of sincerity that people could kind of empathize with the characters. And you know, it was something that we couldn't achieve with Dreamleaf, which was essentially just fun and
Yeah. So
fun.
that sincerity angle it links towards the this whole idea of trying to cover the spectrum of light lighthearted and funny, chill moments to more deep and personal and evocative moments. Whereas with Dreamleaf, our digital board game that was very, based off of Mario Party, but we wanted narrative in it. So it was like the party version of Mario Party, but with narrative. So it was just, yay, fun, happy, funny moments all the time. And what happens
That's
after
yeah,
those funny moments? There's more funny
more funny,
moments.
yay! But
And
yeah,
so we wanted to have that balance and have that range of experiences and emotions, and also that range of characters and personal stories that yeah, we thought this new game could bring.
make it a bit more rich. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, why a jewelry store setting, actually? Let's talk about that. Because it's not your typical setting. Like, I haven't played many games that have explored a jewelry store setting, and definitely, like, maybe they've explored making jewelry. I've definitely seen, like, making jewelry games, but not a lot of, like, games set in a jewelry store. You know what I mean? Have
yeah,
you
yeah, pretty much same. I don't think I've ever played a game set in a jewelry store. No.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I wouldn't be like the first person to think of like a jewelry store as a setting. And that's where Friana comes in. So Friana is has like an explosive imagination. Is that a good word to describe explosive?
Yeah,
Let's
sure.
just
Let's go with that.
all right, an explosive imagination. Um, and they're the ones that came up with this jewelry store setting, like this jeweler. And so we like decided to um, press them a little bit more about this because I mean, it's not every day you think, oh, I want to make a game. Let's make it set in a jeweler. So basically, they said that when they were like younger, they lived kind of close to a jeweler, and also it kind of came to mind because we were talking about like the subject of having a more fantastical setting and potentially having a witchy or like a character that
Yeah.
had some sort of magic. And
So we wanted that, but we also wanted the shop, right?
yeah, we also wanted the shop mechanic because or just the shop setting because it felt
Yeah.
intimate, and I think we all kind of just leaned to that intimacy and getting to know a character.
Yeah. And also just the ability to kind of have the game, because we wanted this to be a game that we make in a relatively short amount of time. So a game
Yeah,
where it's in one central location and we don't have to, I guess, constantly be making assets for every new place that the
yeah.
characters go.
It has like a main hook in terms of like a main mechanic, but it also like has a slightly richer narrative, or like as like,
Yeah.
well, how deep the narrative goes depends on you, but essentially just like a deep narrative.
Yeah.
Let's move on from the jeweler, the environment, the setting, and talk about the visual style a little bit. So, how did we come up with the visual style, you might ask? Well, if you've seen the game, you can tell that it's very much uh, anime art style, I think. Well,
Yeah.
that's like the best way to describe it. It's an
You
anime
think?
art
I
style.
mean,
Whatever.
it's your
Okay.
art style. You
Haha.
tell me.
Yeah. It's anime. It's anime. And my inspiration growing up was mostly games like my favorite game of all time is Phoenix Wright, along with Professor Layton. But the art style of Phoenix Wright kind of stuck with me a lot more, and I also really loved the kind of animations that they had in this game because each character um, was very unique and like it was extremely exaggerated because it was Phoenix Ray, and that's what I love about it. How like people's wigs can fly off and then like coffee can be thrown. There's just infinite
Just anything can
possibilities.
happen.
Exactly, it's so good, and there's so many games as well, which is something to consider for our project, maybe. But yeah, I loved the kind of range that they had and the character designs that they had, and just the art style in general. I mean, I've always been a fan of anime, and I feel like in visual novels, um, most visual novels, I don't know where like visual novels originated, but I feel like they're really popular in Japan, which is probably why there's like always this kind of anime
Yeah.
art style. And why I've probably kind of leaned towards that when we started
It's
creation
a
of this
natural
game.
fit, yeah.
Yeah, and it works. Uh,
Yeah.
but talking about kind of the visual style as well, we actually have two artists on this team. So I'm the lead artist, and Friana is the concept artist. So basically, how we decided to incorporate our art styles after a lot of discussion is just Friana would do the concept art and the CGs while I kind of finalize it. So I kind of print it out, like print out the idea. So that's why we kind of had this in joke that Brianna is the ink and I am the printer. And here on screen, we have these lovely drawings from the initial
Yeah,
stages
so
of our main
this is
character.
actually your concept art, isn't it?
Yes, it's my concept art for our main character Twyla. Uh, so yeah, let's dive into it. So we have. I first started off with like hand sketches because, I mean, when something's digital, you just want to like make it
Just
pretty
want
and
to perfect it.
perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas if it's like pencil and paper, it's like, idea down, move on, you know? That's the kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So I started off for some reason like very much okay, now that I think about it, I think it's because of like it being a visual novel and like Japan inspired. I started going off in a very like Harajuku type vibe, of
Right.
like the hime cut and like just being kind of cyberpunky as well. It was strange. So out of all of the designs, the most normal one, I was like, I like this one the most, and that's
So
why
it
I
was this one,
yeah
right, on the right.
yeah. I like the most normal one after I went like through all the different planes of fashion. And then I digitalized it and did some nice color palettes. You can see Twyla was supposed to be like this strong woman, young woman. Look at her flexing. Don't ask me why. Um, but Yeah, there's that, and then I did some fake screenshots. One thing I will add is that I have this problem with like needing like a concept to stick to, and sometimes I go too far. So in this case, it was just like the concept of like them being like in a jewelry store, so they had to have jewelry, and so I just gave them as much jewelry as I could possibly fit onto them as a person. Like, there's no way anyone would wear like 3 bracelets and like 2 on
4,
each hand.
right?
4? 4?
4
Okay.
bracelets.
That's like 2 bracelets. No, I think, wait, it's 2 bracelets on both wrists. And
Yeah.
then 2 chokers and then a normal necklace. I don't know why I was obsessed with this bottle of like juice that's probably gone off. And then like I just gave her like a bedazzled mask as well for no good reason, because I was just like, oh, you know,
You're just like,
COVID.
humans wear masks, right?
I mean, if you're a jeweler, you're probably gonna have to source stuff, or you're gonna be in contact stuff. So I'm like, oh my god, a mask. And then I was like, oh my god, I can make this pretty. But then I went too far, and no one,
Yeah, but
no one likes
aside
that.
from the abundance of jewelry, the
Yeah,
general color palette, it kind of lasted like the whole duration of the game, right? Like we have this like kind of purpley, which is key. I mean, you see it in the background, even though it's faded, it's key to like the game as it is now. The
yeah.
purple, I feel like it started there, and the brownish of the store.
I gotta say, my intuition to use purple on this first design, just like I think it just works. I didn't change that color palette much because you
Yeah,
don't really see it much. And I just want to point out that the hair to me is supposed to be green. I've been told a lot that it's gray.
yeah. Apparently, this is green.
It's
Um,
like when I look at it in conjunction with everything, I think it's green. Or like when I chose it, it's slightly green. Whatever. But
sure.
shut up. I don't see a lot of people, a lot of characters with this kind of look, so I thought it would work well with our game.
Yeah, I think it works with the whole because we wanted to go the whole like magic-y jewelry route with
Yeah,
like kind of witch like vibes and all that. So
purple's definitely a witchy color.
yeah, I think that's probably yeah, probably one of the main reasons we really stuck with that purple.
Exactly. And the brown is just a good grounding color. Plus, it's overalls. You can't go wrong with overalls.
True.
And here we have Brianna's first kind of sketches and designs for Twyla. I think this is, yeah, definitely when we first were thinking of having a day and night cycle, because they suggested, what about we have 2 designs, because they were very much in love with the super glamorous witch on the top left, which fair enough, like she looks amazing, but I don't think Twyla's there yet. Let's just say. Yeah, we had this like amazing idea that Brianna came up with, that the hairstyle could be a bun that consisted of 2 twin tails. So they have like twin tails wrapped together in the day, and then at night let loose, and it's actually two, like instead of a bun, it's 2 twin tails. It's crazy. It also changed the shop
Yeah.
environment a lot. But yeah, let's go to the next one.
Oh yes, we have this. The evolution of Twyla.
The evolution of Twyla. So in the beginning, Twyla didn't have shine because I was like, if I add shine, it's too much of my style. The game should have like a different, like kind of art style, or like visually look a little bit different. But then Adula was just like, this doesn't stand out. This looks really bland. And we have
Yeah,
our, so yeah.
for me, I basically, the concept of shine, I'm not really that familiar with. The idea you can just draw white lines and it stands out and it doesn't just look like you drew white lines on it.
Art is just
That didn't
lines,
really occur
Nadula.
to me, but for me, I was thinking of the kind of character design angle of, for this character to be more iconic, it should have more, I guess, recognizable like details on the character, right? So we added some things here and there, like the lace and well, Julia added like the lace and the
The
dirt
grit.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being a jeweler means you shouldn't be like squeaky clean, right? And
Hmm.
so added that in, added the shine, and she definitely looks a lot more refined. It suits the game, I think. But that doesn't end there. We have a third one, and we updated her jewelry because when I first designed Twyla's jewelry, I wasn't thinking much. I was like, what would be like? It would make sense. Like you already saw the beginning. I went crazy with the jewelry, so I was like, okay, I need to turn back. Maybe she only
Then
has
you went
like.
too far back. She
Yeah,
has
I
no
went.
jewelry.
Okay,
She hates
whatever.
jewelry.
No, I gave her a necklace, and she has like a plain choker, which is a not a very jeweler thing to do. But
True.
it basically like looked like it stood out because it was like very simple in the shapes and very bold, but it didn't really mean much, and it also looked a little too chunky. So we ended up like changing it a bit more because Twyla's a jeweler. Like her mother was also a jeweler. She probably has better taste than just like a black band and this like Statue of Liberty looking headband that's a
Yeah. And there was
necklace.
also the Statue of Liberty looked nice. I like that. And then there was also the narrative element to it where we really wanted this kind of idea where, Twyla's mom's a jeweler. She's pretty well known and well regarded as a like really prolific jeweler. So she would have kind of given something, uh, given a like iconic piece or memorable piece of jewelry to Twyla, right?
Mm.
Especially probably as she was a child and then growing up. Often jewelry lasts, you wear it for a long
Probably
time.
a lifetime. There's people that
Yeah.
give wedding rings that were from their mother, and that
Yeah,
person's
yeah,
mother's
the
mother got a
stuff like that. Yeah, so for Twyla to just have this Statue of Liberty looking thing on her, on her
I mean, I said it, but you don't have to say it again.
neck. Yeah, so we wanted to make it more kind of cohesive and
A little eye
iconic.
catching, a little
Yeah,
iconic. Yeah, something you can remember by.
and we have this little bead here as well. I think it's a nice touch.
Thanks. I thought a black band was too un
Yeah, to un-Twyla.
so true. Ah, so you might be wondering, why is it just one line of text? Well, we have a second main character actually in this game, and their name is Lao, and they happen to look like Zero Kiryu from Vampire Knight. And if you don't know Vampire Knight is a manga, also an anime of vampires, and there happens to be a human called Zero that is very hot and has white hair and I think blue eyes. But search it up if you're curious, because you might see the resemblances by the end of the showcasing of our character development. But let's look at him at the beginning. Ah, look at this man. He he is such a skinny little boy.
Yeah, it does look a bit like a 10-year-old child, but that's okay. I think he has his kind of iconic
Maybe
elements
he's
to
a
him,
bit
just
of a
not
chameleon,
quite.
you know?
Yeah, that's true. Chameleon. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, this is our not very developed boy, prepubescent Lao, let's call him. Um,
Nice.
Basically, I didn't know what to, you know, what to draw for the second main character because at this point, Nadal is just like, there's gonna be a second main character. He's going to be helping Twyla, but he's also mysterious, and has another job and might be sabotaging Twyla. Who knows? And so I was like, wow, thanks. And I grabbed onto this idea of butterflies and having butterflies as a motif in the design. But like I said before, I have a tendency to obsess over a topic, definitely the first time around. And the butterflies are everywhere in this design. They're on his hoodie strings, his belt, and his earring. And I also have a fan there for God knows what reason. Maybe it's like
Because he's
butterflies just.
cool.
I think butterflies just have a oriental kind of association for me as well. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
I
know.
guess.
Yeah.
And then
So,
he has that little, I like this though, the like little blue tinge on the hair.
oh yeah,
And I
is
think generally the color palette is nice, the
the
purple and
color palette
white.
is nice. I think I remember calling him an e-boy. He's definitely an e-boy.
Anyway, yeah, I can
Yeah.
see it.
Maybe will we have him in the future? I
Oops.
guess we'll find out.
Oh, maybe. E-boy wants jewelry for his ego.
E-boy wants a new dangly uh, string for
True.
his hoodie.
But then Lao became Lao.
A hot guy, Zero Kiryu, from Vampire Knight. If you know Vampire Knight, you can probably see it immediately. But let me just say that when I created this character, I wasn't thinking about Vampire Knight. I was thinking about Lao. So he's very much original from my brain. Um, so when I first designed Lao, uh, I was thinking, okay, he's mysterious, but he's also this reliable figure, at least for Twyla, for most of the story. And I was like, okay, so let's see if I can channel some shapes in here. Like, I have like the triangle and the square that I kind of referred to kind of shape his kind of silhouette and frame. You can't really see it as much with the cape here, but yeah, his like body type is very much Dorito because he's a little bit you kind of don't know if he's like strong or if he's just like intimidating, or if he's reliable. There's that kind of ambiguity. And in the top left as well, I was playing around with like different concepts of this traveler that also had a job, because his job in this whole world is being a tracer, um, and it's kind of like I would say it's a government job. Would you say it's a
Yeah,
government
so
job?
he's like trying to it's kind of like medically related where he's trying
Mm,
to well it's kind of like medical and uh the detectives of the emotional energy. So that they're called tracers because they're tracing the kind of how this emotional energy travels from the source to the target. So who's the person that's kind of responsible for it, like who's being emotional and um, struggling to control their emotions, and the like how the power is kind of finding its way from the source to the target, which is something we'll talk about later with how that all works with the fantasy concepts. But yeah, that's
mm.
Lao's job.
He basically has a very important job that's I thought could be corporate, but could also be maybe. So the first look is like corporate. Second look is like more casual. Like maybe he's like just a traveler, like a hiker. And then the last one is like more military style. And I feel like, I mean, the black suit. Can't go
Yeah,
wrong
the
with a black suit.
contrast fits
Yeah,
well.
good contrast. It looks good. And that's how we decided to design him in the final, which is in the bottom right. This isn't the final actually, but it's like close to the final. I got rid of the bag because it's disgusting. But this is Brianna's additional like feedback and interpretation of Lao, and we ended up going with the scars being in the same direction, which It's probably from, past work that he's done. He's been injured, and I don't know if it's gonna be explored in the writing. But Nadula, if
Could
you
be.
if you think about it, go
So this is
back.
mostly what he looks like now.
Yeah, you
Go
gave them
back.
a you gave him a little
What did we
preview, but
miss? The
no.
slicked
I
back
I
hair.
just wanna I just want to hint. I just want to hint that there were outfits there in the bottom right,
Oh yeah.
of Lau like potentially working in the store wearing overalls and like having that K drama look, and I'm just saying we might. I kind of am keen of
Yeah.
like giving him an outfit swap sometime. So
That'll be interesting. I think
exactly,
his, you just see this guy in black all the time. You want to
exactly.
see him wearing something else.
Something else that's also black but different.
But yeah, so he looks like this now mostly. There's a bit of editing that we've done later, which you'll see. But one thing about Lau is, as we've talked about, how he's a tracer, and he is kind of visiting Twyla to, well, not visiting. He's helping Twyla with some of her issues, which she's run into as she's taking over the jewelry store from her late mother, who passed away around a year prior to the story's events. And
Yeah,
so as a tracer, he's essentially trying to help Twyla because Twyla feels like she's struggling to control her emotions, which of course in this world is a kind of a danger. It's kind of a threat because
there's
basically how it works
consequences.
is, yeah. So in this world, it's like if you feel anger. If you feel
Anger.
anger, it or any type of emotion, um, that energy exudes from you in some way. So that can be through like sparks or flames coming out of your like face or your eyes or something. Or
Mm,
if it's a strong enough force of emotion, it could even travel to some other natural force, or any kind of natural object like clouds or trees or rain or grass or whatever, and it can possess them with that energy. So you can end up possessing the clouds or the rain in Twyla's instance. She's in a kind of bout of depression, and
mm.
it ends up resulting in this really heavy rain, which is how um, Lau finds his way over to Twyla in the story.
So
Um,
basically, this chaos can get strong enough that it like escapes the person and needs to find another host to
mhm,
get rid of it and release it.
yeah, has to find an empty spirit to possess. So this kind of threat and this constant like looming fear that is linked to expressing and um, feeling emotions is this kind of reason why, as a society in Zenoa, the city that Twyla and Lau live, um, people feel stigmatized. Um, People feel that emotional expression and feeling emotions is generally frowned upon and looked down upon, and it's stigmatized. And this is kind of good in a sense because it promotes keeping people in check from expressing themselves too much to a point where it's problematic and destructive. But obviously, it has that double-edged side where it's also the stigma is problematic because obviously if you're prevented from expressing your emotions and you're constantly frowned upon and looked down upon, if you're like Twyla, you're kind of on the wrong end of this society where you're in a position where you have like quite good reason to feel um, you have quite good reason, and you generally are struggling with the idea that you have to control your emotions, and it's not as easy as just just don't feel it because it's
Stop being sad.
yeah yeah, it's just there's there's a lot you have to kind of work through, and this stigma is not really going to help, right? Because it's just looking down upon you for something that you're probably already looking down upon yourself for, and so on. um
Hmm.
so yeah, that's what we mean by this whole double-edged thing, and all these societal implications of chaos, the emotional energy. Um, so we've focused on this one fantasy concept, and all its societal implications have kind of led to this situation where there's a lot of kind of sensitive and nuanced discussions, and like it raises a lot of um, kind of philosophical discussions around emotions and like moral responsibility and how much should you be willing to sacrifice your emotions, and like how does that lead into happiness? Like, is it the state of affairs in Zenoa good,
Mm.
regarding how people look towards emotions as being heavily stigmatized and stuff? Is that good? Is that a viable approach to dealing with chaos, or is there perhaps something better? Which is kind of the conflict that Lau is finds himself occupied with throughout the main brunt of this story. Um, and Twyla's situation is kind of part of him trying to deal with that. So to kind of get into this story and uh, these like nuanced and kind of complex and sensitive topics, um, we thought
You.
it'd be best to, well, I thought it'd be best to look into it more and research. Um, and if you know about Stoicism, which is the philosophy that one of the core philosophies that's involved in the narrative and especially involved in Zenoa, Twyla, and Lao City. Um, if you know about this philosophy, basically it's a lot about being logical about your emotions. This is a real philosophy. It's not
Made up.
fabricated, but uh, it's conveniently very relevant to the story because basically that the way people live the way people live according to this philosophy is that they try to control their emotions and try to control what they worry about and what concerns them to be very logical and rational, so that um, basically in through this kind of frame of thinking they feel that um, it kind of most ensures their happiness. So for example, if you feel like you're constantly stressed out or worried about things, if you take a like logical and rational approach to it, look at what you can control and what you can't control in the certain situations, and kind of break them down into a kind of framework of what you should be worrying about, and like focusing on the certain aspects of it um, that you should focus on, and so on. It's it's a really logical and rational approach that is kind of difficult to employ in practice, which is something that becomes quite relevant in the story as in Sonoa's history, people have tried to kind of enforce this philosophy on people, and it's kind of led to issues in the past, which have led to Stoicism becoming kind of its own taboo and its own people generally frowned upon it. They
Mm.
generally frown upon it because of the like high demands and high expectations that it sets on people. So in doing all this research, I had to compile a lot of thoughts and writing, and I'm trying to visually display it here in a way that's not just pages and pages of writing by taking snippets of them out. Um, so yeah, there's a lot to think about in this kind of narrative, and we're trying to think of it. Um, we're trying to ground these complex philosophical ideas and stuff in a way that's relevant for um, our audiences, and also relevant for just like the kind of personal story that we want to tell. Because I feel that a lot of this stuff is quite relevant to people's daily lives, but um, only to a certain extent. Like you can get into really detailed discussions um, about philosophy and stoicism that is not really as relevant to people's daily lives, and even if it is in a world where emotions have this kind of energy. So yeah, we're trying to ground this philosophy and trying to keep it relevant to the personal stories and the customers that come to the store,
Yeah.
which has led to a lot of pages and pages of thinking and writing and researching
You could publish a
and
book.
more thinking.
Oh, look at him. Okay, this, my friends, is the polished layer. Doesn't it look great?
Yeah,
He
he
looks
does.
great. Yeah, hell yeah.
That is some more thinking, and probably not
Nice.
going to go into too much detail about that. I forgot that was there, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I think
So there's a lot to think about,
you
and there's a lot
came,
we're trying to make sure we do our characters justice. So for
you
every
literally,
kind of character scenario we develop, we make sure we flesh it out well. This is actually a snippet of me trying to come up with the scenario for one of our characters, and basically like 90% of this I didn't even end up using.
can I
So
just add, let me just add that you just popped in one day, you're like sick, and then you're like, oh, I'm not gonna work much. And then you're like, just worked for like maybe 2, 3 hours, and then you posted this. And everyone was like, what the heck? What, what is this? What is this, a map? It looks like a blueprint, not gonna lie. And you
it's a
didn't
it's
even
a
use?
blueprint for it's a purple print.
Okay, I was thinking of that, but I didn't use it because it's not good.
But yeah, so we realized, as I was talking about with the character scenarios, that a lot of these situations are quite difficult to write and quite layered because we want to make sure we deal with these perspectives and issues and do the characters justice and like show their full range of um, thought and um, their personality, but also keep it grounded and simple and not just going off about philosophy and uh, random uh, scholarly things that aren't really relevant or not the kind of evocative range of emotions that we want to kind of convey in this personal story, right?
Mm,
Another layer of these enchanting scenarios that is quite unique to our game and kind of forms the basis of these um, of our character scenarios is the idea that and this links back to the whole idea of the jewelry store. And one of the reasons that we did end up with uh, this narrative through line of
a
emotions and
mechanic,
that
yeah.
yeah, of emotions and that whole fantasy concept of emotional energy and how we link that to um, jewelry because initially we started with the jewelry store and then we thought, okay, we wanted to make it magic-y and witch-like,
Mm,
so let's try enchanting jewelry. But then I was thinking about, well, what does enchanting jewelry actually mean? And like, how can we kind of make a spin on that that's not just kind of generic magic-y stuff? Um, you know, it's not just a ring of fire kind of thing. It's more like it actually has narrative relevance.
Ring of
Um,
fire, let's add that.
yeah, so it's kind of like this situation where in a custom jewelry store, a lot of the times you would think that customers come and they're purchasing something for maybe a friend or a spouse or someone like that, or a daughter or who knows. And this kind of has the uh, like added bonus of the fact that they want to. So if we're enchanting these pieces of jewelry with emotions, and these customers are coming to give this piece of jewelry to someone else,
Mm,
then we end up in this scenario where we, as the player character, as Twyla, you're in a position where you want to enchant this jewelry with an emotion that helps someone else. So you end up with this situation where a lot of the dialogue is kind of discussing discussing the customer's personal life and their relationship with this recipient, the person receiving the jewelry, and um, how that kind of relationship and the recipient's life, how does that um, kind of lead to a situation where we can discover what specific emotion would be the best to enchant in this piece of jewelry. And then we also have the other layer of, well, Twyla's a conduit. That's how she's enchanting this jewelry, which means she's the kind of bridge between one person's emotion and an object, right?
Mm.
So she has to take the emotion from the customer themselves and put it in the jewelry, which means the customer has to link back to their own uh, past memories
Experiences.
and
Yeah.
feelings. And um, so, for example, if you want to enchant like hope into a necklace, you have to prod the customer and um, engage with dialogue with them into like when did they feel the kind of specific kind of hope that would help the person that they want to give it to. And I feel like this lends into kind of a complex um, kind of scenario where it takes some time to get used to as a player, but once you get into it, it affords a lot of possibilities for us, and it really leads to these kind of dialogue scenarios where there's a lot more to them than just the kind of back and forth chat. And yeah, I think so far people have seemed to enjoy that quite a lot. Um, it's something we
I'll
can just go over quickly.
No, 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 no. If you've been following
Yeah, let's
along,
just
you
skip
know
past.
how complex this whole process is with developing the whole world and everything that goes into it. Chaos, conduit, bridging between worlds, making sure that talking to customers makes sense, and it's like it doesn't feel unnatural in the context of a jeweler. Well, that's all Nadula's
Well,
effort, and let's just say he has turned partially insane, if not fully. Uh, and what we're
yes, I
showing
have
here is
some
just
sanity left. In my defense, these were, the kind of thing you just write in like you just
yeah,
woke up and you have to
yeah.
work on the game and like you
Okay, for
you have to write down how
context,
you're feeling.
we have
Oh
a
yes, the
stand-up channel.
context is we
Yeah, we
have
have a
this
stand-up
stand-up
channel.
channel. Basically, you write what you're gonna do for the day, and this is
This was
I think you included
for
the prompt how I'm feeling, and like I don't know, it's one of those questions where you're like, oh, what do I write here? I don't know, and so
dude.
you
This
just write
was
some
four
stupid thing
days,
because
like
you're
four
like
consecutive
because
days.
you're
Okay,
like
stop making
extremely drowsy
excuses.
in the morning.
You did not
My
write this in the
excuse is
morning.
Death Note OP2 is
Definitely.
a great opening. That's my excuse.
If you guys want to know what Death Note OP2 is, search it up. This
Moving
guy
on.
is definitely insane. So let's move
It's a
on.
great OP.
Shut up. So we have inspirations. Oh, we've taken inspiration from a lot of classic visual novel. I don't know about classic. In between classic and indie visual novel games
Yeah.
to develop every Hue of You. And we looked at some specific games in particular, like Valhalla, Coffee Talk, Steins Gate, and Zero Escape. Also, Phoenix Wright as well. Just like a whole bunch that
Yep.
have kind
Many
of
more.
a that aren't just like purely visual novel. They have their own little gimmick or a mechanic or like they're either shop, etc. We also, yeah, wanted to look at how people, approached visual novels in terms of their kind of the visuals, right? So seeing everything together and our screenshot in the middle, you can definitely see we've taken a lot of inspiration um, from the settings. Like it's got that cozy aesthetic, and it kind of is shop-like, but it also has like your classic visual novel
Yeah.
dialogue bar and all that for the UI.
So these games on the bottom, and there are plenty like them, are more of the type of games where it's very plot focused. There's a lot of plot, there's a lot of choices and branching narrative
Yeah.
paths, and kind of the main objective of the game is to like find the true ending, right? So you like make a few choices and then you go into like several bad endings, and then through that and playing the game over and over again and like analyzing what's going on and paying a lot close attention to this like sprawling sci-fi plot, you find the true ending, and that's the moment of rejoice, right? And
Mm-hmm,
then
mm-hmm.
in these games above, they're more casual and cozy, and you just kind of customers come in and you make like drinks for them, um, and you have this like kind of casual talk, and a lot of it isn't as plot focused. It's more about conveying the world and the personality of the characters through just kind of daily talk, not too plot heavy. There's not too much going on, but there's just a lot of like a lot of personality, and a lot of the world is conveyed through just like the way people talk and the small things, right?
Mm.
So we kind of like elements of both of these. We kind of like the personal and
Intimate.
cozy, chill nature. Yeah, the intimacy of these games. But we also like the having the kind of overarching plot that these more plot-focused games provide. So we've placed ourselves sort of in the middle here, as you can
Yeah.
see, and as players, we all like. I think as players and developers, we like aspects of both of these types of games,
Yeah, for
and we're
sure.
trying to work. Yeah, we're trying to work in those aspects that we like specifically into our game.
Yeah, to create something new but still familiar. The
Yeah,
gameplay. You want to talk about this at all, since you designed
yeah.
most of
So
it?
yeah, so another aspect of this that links towards this dichotomy of visual novels is
Hmm.
a lot of these more casual visual novels have this like kind of simple gameplay where it's simple, kind of gestural, I call it, where you just kind of you imitate the gestures that would be involved in this gameplay by
Yeah.
like with your mouse or controller or whatever, and that's how you make the tea or the drinks or whatever. So we're kind of doing something similar with the jewelry gameplay, simplifying the very complex process of making jewelry into a much simpler process.
We're taking some creative liberties
Yes,
because
a lot
it's
of
so
creative liberties.
complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, that being said, this whole jewelry making gameplay and process, we're still in the process of concepting and well, not concepting, but well,
Finalizing.
kind of concepting, but finalizing and iterating upon it a lot. So um, if you see us at PAX or something, you'll see an early version of it, but there's a lot we want to change about it and a lot we want to work on, and that goes for a lot of the other aspects of the game. As you see here, the kind of variety, again, linking back to this kind of two types of visual novels,
Yeah.
a lot of the variety that we like from these kinds of visual novels where they have like this really sprawling narrative, whereas these games are more focused in one place, like a store, right? We like the variety that these games offer in their narrative and their world building, and
Mm.
the fact that you get to see more of the world and engage with it more is we
Makes
find that
it more
interesting. So
believable as well.
yeah, more believable, more grounded, and more um yeah, just I guess more like enjoyable that you get to see all these parts of the world that people constantly talk about, right?
Yeah,
Which is
especially because it's not like just a modern setting. It's a fantastical twist on that, so
yeah,
we
yeah,
need to have more world building elements
yeah,
involved.
yeah. So it's not like your normal contemporary story where you can just say, if you say I went to the doctors, you don't have to necessarily draw that out because people know what it looks like. But in some of these cases, like with this tree suffocating someone here,
A
it's
little
good to
dark.
draw it out because yeah, it doesn't really happen every day. So it's good to give
Are you
players an
sure,
image of.
everyone? Are you sure you haven't tripped over a root and then ended up in that position before? Oh
I
wait,
mean,
you don't go outside. I'm
not that I
joking.
remember. That was uncalled for, Julia.
I'm sorry. It just
Are
always
you sure you
rhymes.
haven't cleaned your room before, Julia?
Uh,
Like Twyla here,
you know,
or cleaned your closet?
I have a chair. It's different. Oh, okay. This is an exciting part, guys. So, day two. You're just doing it instantly. Day two character reveal. You
Whoa,
already saw it. A little
Antonio.
bit spoiled. Yeah, Antonio. So Antonio is our Zenoan citizen, and he is a history teacher from memory.
Yes, history, philosophy professor. He's very, very well spoken, polite, and has a lot of thoughts in that head of his.
Also very
Uh,
stylish.
yeah, he actually is quite stylish. And also his arms are extremely straight. That's crazy.
I think it's
How does he stand like this?
he's just a bit bony. He's just a little bony. That's why. And now we
And
have
then we have Ardella.
Adela. Yes, from Zayesa. So Adela is our. We have a character that already exists, and she is unhinged. I think Adela is definitely on the spectrum, like somewhere in the middle. She's definitely a little crazy, but in an entirely different sense. That she's just way too happy.
Yeah, so you will be able to see these characters and the others as well if you come see us at PAX. We will be in the PAX Rising um, portion, the indie portion of PAX. Um,
Yes, come visit.
so yes, come visit us there. You can see every Hue of You in action and get to play it.
If you're in Australia and you're gonna be there for PAX Rising, definitely come visit us. So that's one of the things we're doing moving forward. Um, and that's basically near the end of our panel. We're still a relatively new team. I say relatively new. I think we are a new team actually.
Very new, like
Very
7 months only
yeah. We're children. I mean, we're like
for children.
we're children. Okay, we're adults, but we feel like children in this industry, anyways. Like being fresh uni grads and entering this world. But a lot of people have shown like support to our game, and we thank everyone who has played the game and has liked it. And if you would like to play this game, it's available to wishlist on Steam. So please wishlist this game if you are interested in more of the characters, the plot,
Yeah,
the art.
even if you can't see us at PAX, we're hoping to release sometime next year. No promises yet. We're not making any promises. That wasn't a promise. I didn't say anything.
Another 3 years?
Um, but yeah, hopefully sometime next year. But yeah, we've obviously put a lot of work and planning into these ideas of the game, and um, if you want to see more, you're free to follow us on our socials where we'll share snippets of the game and the development process as it evolves throughout the next
Yes.
year.
At Cactus Jam Games, I think. I'm pretty sure.
You're
But yeah,
pretty sure.
I our social media manager isn't here. It's okay. It's okay if I'm not
But
sure.
yes, it is at Cactus Jam
Okay,
Games.
good. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening in. This was Cactus Jam Games, and I hope you enjoyed our panel.
Yeah. See you soon. Bye.